Hello Internet. In this video I'll be attempting to fix this PNY 4090 that came with a few spare memory chips. I don't know why these chips were included, but I'm sure we'll find out soon enough. Owner stated errors on some memory channels, so let's run the memory test and see it for ourselves. According to mods, we have problems with 5 out of 12 chips. They are B0, C1, C0, D0, and F0. How is that even possible? I don't know until we take the card apart and have a look. Taking a look at the back plate, first clue is to what happened started to emerge. It is clearly bent, and that's not good. I'll continue on digging around, and bam! Now we know where those chips came from. It looks like these chips already have some balls on them, but I don't trust other man's balls, so I will put a set of my own. The board, on the other hand, is a major disaster. It may look fine at first, but every one of these pads has now turned into a gray pad. Most of them will not attach to the solder balls, so I'll have to clean them up and maybe even scrape some of them until they get a good solder bump. That'll obviously take a while, as you may expect. Once that was done, I will wick all the pads once more and repair previous master's mistake not being gentle enough, causing mask to flake away, most likely due to high temperatures. If I don't do it, balls will follow the path of the pad and potentially short something. Let's check for resistances. Everything looks normal, so let's power it on and run the memory test again. Looks like card is a no detect. Not sure if not plugging it into the board is causing this, so let's plug it in and try again. Memory test revealed that the problem with the D0 did not go away, which means we're gonna have to replace that chip with another one and see if that helps. Once the chip is replaced, I check the resistors one more time and try to boot the card and run a memory test again for the 20th time already. At this time, the report shows that we have an error on 4 other chips. And suddenly, that bent back cover is beginning to make sense. Maybe this card was hit with a brick. I don't know. What do we do when the memory error jumps from one place to another? That's right, we reball the core, so let's reball the core. core is reballed. Let's double check for resistances one more time, and before plugging it into a computer, I will power it on through my mega tester. Who knows what might go wrong. Unfortunately, nothing blew up this time, so we're good to go and run a memory test one more time. And the errors on D0 is back, and that means only one thing. We need to look at the board a little closer. Maybe we'll find something. And what do you know? I found a ripped capacitor. I don't know how this capacitor got ripped and when. All I know is that it is now damaged, and I cannot simply resolder it back and expect it to work. Instead, I will look at the board view to identify its number. Then punch those numbers into the schematic and it will give me the correct value. Hopefully I have one in my book. I guess not, so let's look at another board view and see if the donor card will have what we need. Yep, looks like there are plenty of 10 microfarad capacitors there. So let's take one out and put it back on our 4090. Now let's run the memory test for the 50th time, and the report says that we have errors on both D1 and D0. And since we just had a reball and the memory errors keep jumping left and right, what could be the problem? The problem is that there wasn't enough heat applied when the core was soldered back onto the board. Solution at this point is to reflow the core and try again. But this time, I won't be relying on my old H62D+. Instead, a company called WEP sent me their air station free of charge, with no strings attached, for a review. So let's review this thing and see if it's worth the price. And most importantly, will it help us fix this card or not? As you can already see, the nozzle is attached to the station, which means the motor is inside the main unit. It also means that the motor is more powerful, which is exactly what I need. It's not exactly the heat that was the problem with my old station. It was the delivery of the heat. Oddly enough, it fits right into my old station spot, almost as if it was meant to be there. So far so good. The handle is stationed on the base, which is heavy, which is good, because it will stay solid. The handle goes onto the base relatively easy, so there's nothing special about that. And with that out of the way, my first problem with this station is that it uses proprietary tip attachment mechanism. Tips have springs on them, and that's how they're held down. So how in the world am I supposed to use this air station with my old square tip? My tip is already modified to fit the old nozzle, which has a twist lock method. Putting it on the new one is nearly impossible. But nothing is impossible if you need that enough. I'll just try to flatten the edges of the tip a little bit here to make it fit, and I guess it worked. A little rough, but I don't care. As long as it sits there and doesn't fall off, I'm good. Anyway, let's power it on and see what it does. Immediately it goes into full blast. And the first absolutely awesome thing that I noticed is that there's this button that turns it from hot to cold. We can also switch the temperatures from F to C, and the good thing is that it does remember every time you cycle the power. 3 presets to use. I only need one, so I don't really care about that much. But I do use presets for my other air station a lot, and it's really nice to see that this station does have them as well. Second issue I encounter while using this nozzle is that I cannot place my handle back on the base because the tip simply does not fit. That means I cannot turn off the handle unless I set it to the base. Clicking on the switch to go into a cool mode even after the nozzle is completely cooled. It still does not turn off and the fan keeps blowing, which is very frustrating. And it would seem like I'd have to remove the nozzle in order to put the handle back on the base. And even when I did that, for some odd reasons it refused to cooperate. This is actually a very serious design flaw that affects other brands too, so where magnetic field isn't strong enough to trigger the off sensor. It does not happen all the time, but when it does, you don't even notice. It worked a second time and every other time after, but like I said, the magnetic field isn't strong enough to be 100% consistent. So they're all like this, I guess. The reason why that's happening is because the sensor is only on one side of the handle. And sometimes you can accidentally place the handle in just the right spot where that magnetic field will not trigger the sensor, thus keeping the handle going non-stop. Maybe they could add a second sensor inside of the handle and the problem would be solved. I don't know. I have yet seen anyone do that. My old station was somewhat better because it turns the handle off when the minimum temperature is reached, regardless of the handle being attached to the base or not. But the new one does not do that. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe there's something in the owner's manual. And right there it says that if I hold the button for 2 seconds, it will power off the handle. And it did. Woo, man, that was close. I almost call this one a bust. With that button, I don't even need a base, so I'll just throw it away. The biggest question now is, will it fit into my clamp that I used to solder the core? So let's try it out. It looks like it almost fits, but it hangs too low because of the diameter slightly larger toward the bottom. I'm gonna have to fix that later. Right now, I will use this clamp to finish the reflow on this card, so hopefully this unit will help me get the job done right. And as it was hitting the core, I was actually surprised how much airflow this thing delivered. Very good, exactly what I needed. And the moment of truth, did the new air station help me fix this card? Yes. No more errors anywhere in the report? Perfect. Success can sometimes come from the tool, not just yourself. Alright, it's time to assemble the card and run some tests. We get a picture, the card seems to work, and even ran some stress tests. However, 2 out of 3 fans do not work, so let's try to swap the connections and see if that changes anything. It looks like the middle fan works either way on either of the terminals, which means the card is working, but the fans do not. I went ahead and took the heatsink apart to check for wiring, and it looks like all the wires are intact, and the problem is inside the fans. These fans are press assembled. I cannot take them apart without damaging them, so the owner's gonna have to replace them by themselves, unfortunately. And as for the handle, I ended up heating the mounting clamp, getting it hot and soft, and then forced the handle in it, holding it tight while it cools down. And that seemed to work just fine, so without any need to print another clamp, and that's great. With that said, the card is fixed, thanks to my new air station. And hopefully you found this video helpful and maybe learned something. And if you did, please hit me with a like and a comment. And don't forget to subscribe for more. Have a blessed day. Goodbye.